Hey, welcome everyone to another SALT Project Community Open Hour. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. I am your SALT Community Manager, SALT Project Community Manager, excuse me, Jimmy Chunga. This is Community Open Hour for January 19th, Thursday, January 19th. Thanks everybody for being here. Second open hour of the year, much appreciated. Here's where you can find SALT. We're all over the place. You can find us on YouTube, GitHub, Slack, Twitch, Reddit, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and of course the Hacks podcast that just had a new episode come out this past Tuesday. So I'd like to invite all of you to check it out. Here's what we're talking about today. We're a little bit light. We're going to be talking about Nick's project that is gaining in popularity from the conversation that we had just a few moments ago before we hit record. Also, SALT has a powerful new sibling. Yes, Gary, it's new. I'm still calling it new anyway. And then we'll check in with our community forums with Thomas Phipps, and then our Q&A will follow. Open hour every first and third Thursday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Pacific time. That's 11 a.m. to noon Mountain time. You can do the math from there. Our next SALT Project Community Open Hour will be on February 2nd. Thank you, Elisa, for changing that date for me. I did not do it. Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, so next up.
I wasn't going to make a big deal out of it.
No, I went, look, you know, you got to keep me honest, right? So I appreciate it. SALT Project user group meetups. This is the brainchild of one Nick Hughes. Let's give Nick a round of applause. Well done, Nick. Thanks for doing this. You're doing the yeoman's. Oh, a round of applause from Gareth Greenway. Round of applause. Very good. These will be single day events with speakers, recorded breakout sessions, food, networking. They're going to be happening sporadically around the country. If you want more information about this, get with our good friend Nick Hughes, or go to spugum.com, S-P-U-G-M. I think that's one of the FCC's 7 banned words, spugum, if I'm not mistaken. So go to spugum.com. You can learn how you can become a part of the SALT Project user groups, meetups. Let's see here. Now, next up, this is what I saw a couple of questions about this in the Slack channel. What is this powerful new sibling to SALT? So we have this new open source entity. It's called Item Project. It's created by Tom Hatch, who most of you should know, created SALT. Is it SALT? Is it part of SALT? The short answer is no. However, it is a powerful new sibling to SALT. And there's all kinds of stuff that's going to be happening over the next year that are going to bring SALT and Item even closer together. So if you're a SALT user, if you're a hardcore SALT user, it'd probably be in your best interest to take a good solid look at Item and see what's going on there and what it can offer you. It can scan your current cloud deployments, can generate all the data you need to manage them. That's just barely scratching the surface there. Obviously, I can't put everything in a quick little slide here on PowerPoint, but I'd like to invite you to go to Item Project, that's IDEM, itemproject.io to take a look, get yourself started, start farting around with it, start playing around with it and see what you think. Because this next year, 2023, SALT and Item are gonna go like this. They're gonna get very, very, very close together. Let's see here, moving right along. Let's take it over to Thomas Phipps and see what's happening in the community forums.
Hey, it's not much of an update. User was asking about automating license or minion keys, and it occurred to me while we were talking that apparently everybody knows wheel with the keys, but there is more to wheel, such as being able to configure the minion roots and put the pillar roots and be able to actually inject pillar files into the pillar roots, as well as sorry.
Hey, you're good, man. Take your time.
No, I'm not used to Windows 11 yet. Is what's going on. As well
Says
as
you and everyone else.
Being able to inject master configs. It's basically control over the master and it could be accessed through reactors through the wheel dot. There's also salt util dot wheel for the minion that exists on the master. So there's all sorts of utilities for it.
Are we good there, Thomas? Do you think we're good? Anything else?
Yeah, I think we.
All right. All right, fantastic. Moving right along, I posted earlier in Slack that people were welcome to post questions for the Q&A in when we were kind of promoting that open hour was going to be happening today. I have a couple of questions that I'd like to run by all of you, especially the Salt Core team. This comes from Sebastian, username on Slack, Network Shark, says, "Hey Chungo, one topic I'm interested in is why did the Salt team give up on Tiamat? Giving up the tool that was introduced one release before seems like there was a big problem. Is that true? Would anyone like to answer that? Any takers on Tiamat? Why we switched from Tiamat?
So it's not really, I can weigh in, and I'm sure David has some thoughts, and I'm sure Wayne does too. It's not so much that we gave up on Tiamat. We found some technical issues and some technical limitations in Tiamat specific to using with Salt. And so we decided to go in a different direction for the 3006 release. Tiamat is still a great tool. I know Einem uses it. I know some other tools within Salt related tools are using it. It just didn't make sense for our use for Salt.
I would add that the real problems that we really encountered were with pip and people installing modules. And we've been using Tiamat for a few years in the native minions on routers in things like Solaris, 10, 11, AIX. And it worked great there where people weren't pip installing stuff, especially on the routers. Nobody's going to pip install in a router. And it was kind of bulletproof, never really had any issues with it. It's only when we started people pip installing that we started running into issues with paths and things. And the RelInf has a solution for that that's much better, allowing people to pip install basically seamlessly, unlike the problems they ran into with the Tiamat backend.
And to be clear, like the real limitation, the real technical limitation that we ran into wasn't Tiamat specific. It was actually related to PyInstaller and the way the PyInstaller builds its packages, its binaries. And to David's point, it was most of the issues were related to pip installing, and that was a limitation with PyInstaller.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I don't believe that that Network Shark is watching this right now, but I know he's going to be checking that out on YouTube. So thank you, gents. Is there anything else on this before we move on? No, we're good. All right, very good. I'm seeing in the chat here, Hunter has a question. If allowed, I'd like to ask about the future of the network module in SaltStack. Nick replies with, all questions are welcome in the Q&A. Damn right, Nick, that's absolutely true. That's why we're here. So does anybody have an answer to Hunter's question?
I guess one question would be, I don't know if you want to take yourself off mute. Oh, you are off mute, Hunter. If you want to like give specifics about like what you mean by the future of the network module.
So my environment is 250, 300, mostly RHEL related machines. We're a mix of CentOS. We've got now one Rocky machine, go Rocky, one Alma machine, go Alma. I love a distro that's named after the evil villain in an early video game. I'm a big fan of that. But we do have some Ubuntu machines, and we have the SUSE corner of shame. Thank you, storage team.
Corner of shame.
That's pretty much what we call it now. It has less to do with SUSE and a lot more to do with the particular vendor that we're getting those SUSE machines through. But there's definitely a lot of shame there. In any event, we've run into some networking challenges with SALT. Our original SALT formula for networking was actually written by me, and I didn't use any of the SALT networking tools. I, absorbed a bunch of data and plastered down files and turned on and off system daemons using those tools. We decided a couple of years ago that formula had reached its useful end of life after about 4 years. I was kind of surprised it lasted that long. And we rewrote that formula to be Network 2, and that uses all of the SALT built-in tools for setting IP addresses and routes and trying to set up bridges and all this kind of stuff. And we've had a fair number of problems with that code, particularly on newer systems. For one, Network Manager, which is now popular if not required on newer distros, is partially supported, but not kind of really. NetPlan in Ubuntu is not supported. The new config files for Network Manager that are becoming the default in RHEL 9, I don't believe are supported at all. And so being a Python person myself, I dug into the network module, and I'm a big fan of SALT, so I guess I'm allowed to say this. The network module in particular looks like something cooked up by Chef Boyardee. It doesn't split out the functional parts of any one distro or any one subsystem of networking. It's just one big file and 10,000 if statements. And I think that is an area where SALT needs to strongly reconsider how that module is done. My personal opinion is it should be built up into drivers, say one for network modules, one for if config, one for, and then a distro says, I'm a distro, and a distro version is then says, I'm built up of these. And if you need a new driver for, say, NetPlan, then a new driver needs to be written. But that's my opinion. It doesn't matter. All I really ultimately care about is that the code works. And so I was wondering what the future of the network module in SALT stack really is, because right now it's causing us more trouble, frankly, than it's worth. We can't do bridging on Network Manager based systems. And we're not aware that there's support for the new config files. I believe they're called key files in RHEL 9. So that was my question. That's mostly from my team. What is the future of the networking module in SALT stack?
So as far as
Sorry to be
networking, oh no, that's your everything you said was absolutely correct.
Except the Chef Boyardee thing. That man is a treasure. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah,
please
I would
continue,
say I would say the only offense that I would take at that is the mention of chef, just because it's a
Oh.
no, it's I like chef. I was sorry to see that chef got bought and then shelved by whatever company it was that bought them.
Yeah, that was a mistake.
No, as far as like so networking, network, like configuring network, it is one of those areas of SALT that we have unfortunately neglected. Our focus has been other places. There is an open issue to add support for using SALT with Network Manager, which is assigned to me, which is going to be one of my areas of focus on for 3007. So I think you would join the previous open hour and raise the same issue before.
I've even emailed you directly, but I know that you're extremely busy, and I didn't want to pick on you directly. We welcome all contributions because we're a user.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, like I said, it's one of those areas. Like once we get 3006 out and released and kind of get through I mean, just get that, like, we will like start focusing on what needs to go into 3007. And like I said, for me, that's one of those areas that I'm planning to tackle. So,
Is the plan to split that module up into more supportable independent bits, since there seems to be a divergence of how Linux distros at least do their networking?
I mean, it definitely could be. I honestly hadn't thought that far out. At the moment, like the previous the way that all the networking modules worked, as you probably saw looking at the code, there was one for like each distro specifically, or family of distros, and then using virtual modules, it would call. They'd have a similar set of functions, and then they would call depending on. It would call the correct one depending on which OS you were running on.
Right.
So probably the fact that like a lot of them are using, I mean, I feel like everyone uses Network Manager, at least by default at this point. So that kind of having virtual modules for that function kind of doesn't make sense going forward. So probably like a Network Manager module might be the routes. That was one of the thoughts I had, was going that route, or like NetPlan. I know you mentioned NetPlan is another option like that's out there. Could be an
I'm not
option
sure.
too. Like,
I'm not sure why Ubuntu has to be special, but they are a special area here, and we as a group of sysadmins have to support the distros that our users throw at us. We don't necessarily get to choose, or we have some influence, but we don't get to choose, is I guess what I'm trying to say.
yeah, as SALT maintainers, we're very well aware of specific distros and OSs being special for reasons and accounting for that. So
Yeah.
we feel your pain.
As you get closer to actually working on that module, I have talked to the boss, and we can be a beta or alpha site if you want one.
That would be great.
Our environment is not going to exercise 100% of networking. We don't set custom routes and things like that, but we are, I think, a fair mix of other things that are fairly common. And we can certainly document what we use and what we don't, so that you can see what we are alpha testing well and what we're not, what bits of the code we're not alpha testing. I put that out as an offer.
Yeah, no, that would be greatly appreciated. I mean, one approach that I might take, at least in the initial phases, is to have it as an extension, a SALT extension. That way it's easy to install and test, not having to not have to wait for like a full release. And then once it's ready, kind of merge it back in, because it should be and will be considered a core module. At least the initial developments, to get for speed and testability, it might make sense to have it as an extension.
You said that this is targeted at 3007. I realize that the world is a fluid place. Does 3007 have a rough ETA at this point?
No, not really.
Roughly several months after 3006.
Yeah, I mean, I think like I don't believe you attended our last open hour, but our release cadence, we're trying to get to like a better like scheduled cadence. I don't want to like quote specific dates because I'll get it wrong. I can't remember if it was how many months it was. Maybe like Megan, David, do you remember?
It was, we're moving to an LTS model. And I'm trying to remember if the 3007 was the short-term support or it was an LTS support. I think it was 3008 was the LTS support. So it will be something like 6 months after 3006, and then there'll be about 6 months of short-term support before the 3008 LTS support comes out. But that's me being vague from trying to remember the slide from the last community hour. I'd recommend go look up the YouTube video. It had the slide in that. And that would show a little bit better.
Okay,
The slide's been somewhat updated because of comments from the last community art people have pointed out stuff. So we've got a better version of this slide now, but I don't have it.
so
Yeah,
approximately
Hunter-
every 6 months, a new version of Salt, with some of them being LTSs.
The LTS is going to be kind of like a yearly basis where we
Okay.
get support for a year and then bug fixes for another year, so that it's going to be long lived. And the short term supports are more sort of, here's the latest feature, try it out and stuff. And you know, you then have 6 months of bake in with the short term support before it kind of crystallizes into a long term support version, so to speak. So that remember how the kernels used to be odd and even on
Yes.
Linux, and then they just got away from, well, it's a bit like that. Stick going with the odds and evens.
Yeah, I get a 404 for that Earl as well, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, I can
Hmm.
share my screen. It works for me, but
Yeah,
and it has the
there's a-
image on it, but
There's Elisa, if you would, let's do that.
Okay.
And then, and another thing, Hunter and everyone else who's watching this after the fact, just go check the previous, it's the January 5th open hour. And the slide that you're seeing right now, as I understand it, has undergone some refinement. So I don't know that this is entirely accurate, but it does give you a ballpark idea of what.
I was
the
only
Salt
looking for a
14 was working
ballpark.
on.
Yeah, no, that'd be
Yeah,
fine.
okay. Yeah, so that's in the January 5th open hour. Just go to the Salt Project YouTube channel. We do have a playlist called Community Open Hour, and it's right there for you.
Skips 3007 completely.
nope.
I see
right here.
3006.
Short little one in the middle.
Oh, the little one in the middle.
I'll
Oh,
It's an
okay.
STS. Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. Cool.
And I believe
Yeah, there
that
you
was the
go.
one that Gary keyed in on very quickly in the last open hour as well. And I think that's the part of the slide that has been changed.
Well,
Just so you
I
know,
mean,
it's
I-
been awesome.
I have a better graphic that I made. I just haven't, we haven't published it yet. I'll pull it up really fast and you can see it. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, the update that Chunk is alluding to was calling out CVE support for the 3007, 3009, 3011, like the short-term support releases.
Okay. I think I mentioned this last time. I know there was some commentary in the community about going to OneFile or Wonder Salt deployments. We have found that to be a big success for us. We don't really
Oh,
care if they're
great.
built with Tiamat or Keebler elves, frankly. We've the other question I had just on that is all of the SaltStack community stuff hosted at GitHub? Because Tiamat did not appear to be. It was hosted somewhere else. Is that something that's in progress, or was that just an accident?
The TMAT stuff is hosted on GitLab. There was a move in just before we got bought. Everything was getting moved to GitLab because it's got better CI/CD. GitHub in the meantime has caught up with GitHub Actions, and so the relevant stuff is all on GitHub using GitHub Actions, and we're kind of downgrading using GitLab.
Okay.
Uh,
We were
So
curious.
it's open in SaltStack Open on GitLab, so you can go out to GitLab and find it there,
Wonderful.
along with a bunch of other stuff that we used for containers and other things. But we're kind of migrating back to using GitHub. Like all the
Okay.
relevant stuff is going to be on GitHub. That's where most people are.
That's why I was asking the question. Is almost everything is on GitHub, good for good or evil. It's all there.
Remember when Microsoft bought GitHub and everybody started bolting to GitLab
Yeah.
because they were nervous about Microsoft? Well, I guess Microsoft's been good steward of GitHubs in the last few years, so trickling back, so to speak.
Yeah, we're not all going back to SourceForge.
Wow, that's some ancient history there.
I'm old. The
Me
person that
too.
put up the release candidate or the release schedule graphic, is there any chance you could email that to me, or is that allowed?
We'll be publishing it when we have our first RC, and I will feel more comfortable when we have an official publication, sharing it with community members, but
I understand.
Yeah, I think it's still being, there's still some iterations to come of that. That's a work in progress, but we'll definitely put it on saltproject.io and up on YouTube. And Hunter, if you have any questions about that, you're more than welcome to reach out to me personally on
I appreciate
Slack.
it.
It's just Chunga. Yeah. So
We can't use
um,
Slack here.
oh, you can't, okay, email me, schunga@vmware.com.
Okay. We're government, so we're special.
Yes, you are.
Mama
Yes,
said
you
we're
are
special.
indeed. Yeah. Well, and that gives me it gives me pause. I was going to, for your feats of skill and mental acuity here in the Q&A, I was going to award you with a Salt Project prize. Can you accept a prize through the eStore or no? 'Cause
It's
you're
much
government.
easier if I just say you should donate that to another hardworking member of the community.
Gotcha. All right, fair enough. Gary Geeson, congratulations. Send me a Slack. You've got some swag courtesy of Hunter.
Yay!
Yeah, there you go.
And Hunter,
There you-
it sounds like a screenshot when you replay this on YouTube is your holdout for the time being.
That'll
Oh,
be
there
fun.
you go. Yeah,
Cool.
there you go. Good thinking, David. Okay, Hunter, if there's nothing else, I'm going to move this on to anyone else who may have a question. Are you
No,
all
much
right, sir?
appreciated. Thank you kindly.
You got it. Nick, any questions from you today?
Of course there is. So I guess this was starting to get touched on a little bit. 3006, is that locked down yet?
As far as pull requests,
Yes.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Anyone else correct me if I'm wrong.
We're still accepting.
Okay, so I had changed the documentation on 63354 to point at 3006. I just linked it in chat, and I think the failures are unrelated right now, and I can update the branch to sort of kick in the pants and try again. But there was an outstanding question where Pedro was asking about supported pip versions. And I was just sort of like keeping in line with the rest of the module, which does support older versions in a way. So that I didn't have to go back through and like update all the things. So I guess he was wondering if we still need to take care of that inside of this PR, or if that's something that we can hold for a later time. If we can hold it, then this should be ready to go for a 3006. If I need to make updates, let me know.
I think I remember looking at this PR, and my interpretation of Pedro's question was, and I'm not seeing like the full change here, but it looks like you did something to account for if the version was version 9.
Yeah, so essentially it's just version 9 is when the JSON output was possible. So I'm rotating the like list function or whatever I was working on. I haven't seen this in a little bit, to use that JSON output because it's easier than string parsing, right? So we can still accommodate the old version because I left all of that code there as a separate function call. So it was really just like a convenience thing. The code's already there. We can rotate and use it if somebody's having an issue with the new functionality. But I'll automatically use the newer one if they're using new functionality, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think the question was whether or not we needed to account for version 9 still.
I mean,
We don't ship.
realistically, are people using that version? Probably not. You know, less than 9 would be like ridiculously old. But
Version 10 was
it's-
released in 2018.
yeah,
Version 9 was released in 2016. So if it was introduced in version 9, you know, I feel comfortable at this point saying, if you're using a pip that old and the salt this new, you gotta upgrade your pip.
I mean, to Gary's question about like CentOS 7, again, like I think Pedro's point is what we're shipping, and we don't ship a version of Python or a version of pip that would be using 9. So I would agree with Wayne here. I would feel comfortable not even bothering with that support for older versions. That old of a version.
So this amounts to like 2 lines of code, right? Like me saying what the minimum version is and then checking for it. Is that something where we have to go back and rip that out now, or is that something that can wait? Because there's stuff that's all over this module that does minimum version checks for this, that, and the other thing.
So are we erroring out with this minimum version, or?
No, we're shifting over to the functionality that was already there previously.
Ah, okay.
Okay, so if it's 9, you do the old functionality. If it's greater than 9, you do the new functionality. Yeah, that's probably okay for 3006.
Yeah.
And then 3007, maybe whip it out.
Drop support for impressively
Yes.
old versions of pip.
Drop support for pip version 9. Yeah. That could be our one of our major changelog items for release notes. We finally dropped support for pip 9.
Okay, cool. So that should be ready to go. I'll hit the update branch button and kick off the tests again, and resolve that conversation. I think the only other thing that I had was I'd seen the note that Barney put in develop. Did you guys see that?
I did. I was going to bring it up, but you have the conch, as they say. So why don't you go ahead and do your thing?
Yeah, he just had a question about PR in the Pepper repo. So if anybody knows that and can take a look, I'm asking on his behalf.
I saw that the
So-
PR existed, and I know that it points to Pepper. I don't know that we have a strong opinion or plan with Pepper at the moment. Something that we need to discuss as the team. It's not something that we want to keep maintaining ourselves or turn that over to the community. It does at least sound that like at least right now there's some people interested in working on it.
At some point, we had turned over we had turned it over to one community member who was interested in maintaining it, because we as a team didn't have the bandwidth to do that. I don't know if they're still actively maintaining it. Sorry, David, I cut you off.
No problem. I was going to say Pepper was written by a core team member, Daniel. At the time, this is like back in 2016, 2017. And when he left the company, he kind of was one of those personal project kind of things. That was quasi core because he was on the core team. When he left, he took kind of his Pepper with him. And then he kind of dropped interest in Salt. As you do when you move other companies and stuff, and other things change. And over the years, so I'm not sure who is actually the maintainer for it now, but certainly the Salt core team hasn't been paying any attention to Pepper for the last few years.
So the person I found them in the commits. It was presumably still is Matt Phillips, Matt P. Dash. I think he's somewhat active sometimes on community Slack. So he was the person that was, he was the person that was given
merge rights.
merge, yeah, thanks, Wayne. Merge access to Pepper.
Is that something that's still possible with the changes that VMware made to contributors access? I know that was a thing last year. I didn't really look into what happened during that.
That is a very good question.
Yeah.
I do not know. I'd have to look.
Well, if this is something that the core team is still planning on having the community drive, and you just need somebody to be able to like look through pull requests and stuff, I'd be willing to throw my name out there.
And for what it's worth, I'm totally happy for the in the current nebulous situation, maybe potentially nebulous situation. If you want to take that on and just say, yep, I checked this, it's good, go ahead and merge it, then I'm happy to go ahead and push the button if we just need somebody to push a button. So
Okay.
And just while you guys were chatting, I looked up, Matt does still have access as admin access on that repo. So.
Yeah, in the community, they were talking about this fork of Pepper. Can't remember, it was a great name they had. I'm trying
Salt
to look
cumin.
at it quickly. Cumin, yeah, cumin. So there could be some sort of merge functionality to whoever is taking it over, as if a community takes it over to merge stuff up and get everything into sort of one source of truth would be good.
sounds like from that conversation that Cumin may have had some may have had some issues going a little stale, so I'm not sure if that's still the case or not,
Yeah.
but yeah, something to consider for sure.
Yeah, that was me. I don't want to warn anyone off, Cumin. I can't remember what it was, but I tried it and something didn't work for me, whereas the old Pepper still did. So try it yourself and find out. But yeah, there was something missing that I needed from Cumin.
I will say it's always important to rotate your condiments. They do go stale sometimes.
Need some ketchup, mustard, whatever.
All right, anything else? Any other questions? We're good. So I have one question really quick. David Murphy, the picture of the sailboat in the bay behind you. Did you take that picture?
Somebody else took it because I am actually on that boat.
Are you really? Wow.
That's my sailboat.
You got me.
Anil
Listen-
was
for it.
asking me about my boat and stuff. Did I have any pictures? So I quickly switched one into my background screen, and I haven't changed it since.
It's gorgeous. It's so gorgeous. In fact, I think you'd look really smart on that boat in a new Salt community hoodie. So send me a message for that amazing background, and I've got you hooked up with a brand new hoodie. And I'll get you a
Okay.
code. There you go. See,
Hey,
feats of
can-
skill and
can-
mental
can you-
acuity.
Can you make it from Henry Lloyd? Really nice, waterproof.
No, VMware requires me to make them from sustainable materials. So you're basically wearing old water bottles, but still, it's a fantastic hoodie, as Gareth and Nick can attest to. Also, let me see what else here. Gary, please send me a message as well about getting you something from the Salty store. And Wayne Warner, a reminder for you, sir, I have zip up hoodies on order just simply because you've asked for them. So a whole bunch of Salt zip up hoodies will be available as well to community members. Okay, so before we hand everything over to Wayne, Thomas Phipps says, Interesting Pepper's last commit is newer than Salt Cumin's last commit. Any last thoughts on that before we send it over to Wayne?
No,
Nope.
it was just something I just
hungry.
noticed.
Very good. All right, Wayne, play us out, man.
So of course, talking about food makes one hungry and think of things that happened food related. And I was out the other day and this girl said she recognized me from the vegetarian club, but I swear I never met her before.
So dumb. All right. Thank you, Wayne. We are all now less smart because of that joke. I appreciate it. Very good. All right, everybody. That's it for Salt Project Community Open Hour. We will see you on February 2nd, Groundhog Day. Man. Yeah. Until then, we'll see you on the next one. Check it out on YouTube. All the other Salt Project Community Open Hours as well. We'll see you on the next one. Bye, everybody.
Have a good one, everyone.